Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Kunos Sports Talk 19. My name's Adam, and I'll be taking you through some current sports stories, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, World Baseball Classic, Major League Soccer, and I'll be hitting some college sports as well. So, getting right to topic. Let's start actually with the National Basketball Association. Now, recent news came out that the Knicks are in a downspin right now. They are a horrible franchise. They're not the greatest team right now. They traded for aging veterans, and now we hear that Charles Oakley had an altercation at the Garden last night, which resulted in him getting arrested in the Garden and being let out by security. Backstory is, I'm sure everyone's heard of what's going on. Charles Oakley had to buy his own ticket to go to see the Knicks games, who are celebrating their 70th anniversary as a franchise. And they're obviously, when you celebrate a legacy like this, you bring in former players and you celebrate the franchise as a whole. But he had to buy his own ticket. He sat about 3 or 4 rows back of the owner and got into a potential altercation, or was just upset with how he was treated. He was very vocal. Now fans are saying that he was loud, he was adamant, he was just outright noisy throughout the entire game, and resulted in him getting let out by security. Phil Jackson even had to come down and try to talk to him to calm him down. But obviously Charles Oakley is not happy. The Knicks, there's too many storylines going on with the Knicks. Will they trade Carmelo Anthony or not? Now Charles Oakley, this franchise needs to be a rebuilding franchise, if not now, soon. Get rid of Carmelo. He is pretty much a hold right now under salary cap. He is pretty much eating up any potential of bringing in young talent to help rebuild that franchise. So, whatever's going to be going on in New York, it's not going to be fixed this year. I doubt it is going to be fixed next year. Um, so again, just a horrible situation going in for New York. Now, looking into the rest of the NBA, in the West, the Golden State Warriors are pretty much tearing it up as they have been the last couple years. They sit at 44-8, 4 games ahead of San Antonio and 7.5 games ahead of Houston. San Antonio and Houston are the two teams I think that can challenge Golden State to win the Western Conference and be the Western Conference representative in the NBA Finals. Durant, Curry, Thompson, those are your big three contributors to that team. Now, again, this is a team that won 73 games last year, blew a 3-1 lead to Cleveland, obviously lost the NBA championship. Now they're not really focusing on trying to break their own record. They already have 8 losses as compared to only had about maybe 4 losses around this time last year, if I remember correctly. If you're out there, you can comment on what their loss was by the time this year. But again, if you want to look at some other teams, Utah and LA, the Clippers, potential contenders. But obviously, this is Golden State's conference to lose, and it's going to be their conference to lose. Now, regarding if they get into the playoffs and they run through the first 2 rounds and make maybe the conference championship a competitive round, this is going to be a very walk-through playoff team that's going to walk through the playoffs and potentially meet up with, I hate to say it, Cleveland in the Eastern Conference. But when you look at the Eastern Conference, Boston, Washington, and Toronto all sit within 6 games of Cleveland for that first spot, and Atlanta's at 6 games as well. Cleveland's in a little bit of a kind of a dogfight right now with trying to still find their identity, in my opinion. Granted, they're 36-15, hold the best record. They're going to win the Central regardless. But LeBron James his minutes are being cut back, and he had to bring in Kyle Korver to be that 3-point shooter. And everyone's saying like LeBron James, he needs to bring in talent. I mean, okay, I look at it this way: when LeBron James left Cleveland 2000 after the 2010-11 season, after 2009, 2010, after the 2010 season, my mistake. Cleveland absolutely sucked. They had the worst record in the NBA. They had the longest losing streak in NBA history. They were able to get top draft picks to bring in Kyle Irving, and then when LeBron James came back, Eastern Conference champions, back-to-back NBA Finals appearances. Now, if you want to say that Cleveland is going to be that team that gets to the finals and potentially wins the finals, I think you could be on something when you say that Cleveland will win the Eastern Conference and potentially repeat as NBA champions. But You have a young team in Boston, which I love what Boston is doing right now. Isaiah Thomas is currently their best player, and I obviously think he's an all-star for years to come. Boston is that team that if they hold the number 2 spot could potentially meet up with Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals and challenge them for that Eastern Conference title. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Boston does win the Eastern Conference and meets up with potentially Golden State, Utah, or San Antonio or Houston in the NBA Finals this year. So again, more to come on the NBA. We're getting to the All-Star break here in about a week or so. So we'll come back to the NBA. On to the NHL. We just came out of All-Star break. We're now in the final home stretch of the season. And your current playoff pitcher, and looks like in the Western Conference out of the Pacific Division, if the season ended today, Sharks, Blues, Ducks, Oilers. Oilers would be your first wildcard team out of the Western Conference. If you look at the Central Division, Wild, Flames, Blackhawks, Predators. Flames would be your wildcard spot. Out of the Western Conference right now, I say San Jose. Actually, I would say Minnesota, who currently leads the conference with 76 points, is one of your better teams. But I will say on caution, they have Bruce Boudreau as their coach. Now, Boudreau is a great coach. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing against him, nothing against Wild fans who are potentially watching this video. But just be mindset, if you guys get into a Game 7 situation like you did for Anaheim, that could be a very bad situation. He is 0 for 4 in his last Game 7s. And me as a Ducks fan, having to go through 4 Game 7 exits to the Red Wings in 13, the LA Kings in 14, losing to the Blackhawks, I think the most hurtful Game 7 in 2015, where we were a game away from the Stanley Cup Finals and then losing to the Predators in Game 7 last year. So we'll see what Minnesota does. They sit 5 points ahead of Chicago right now, and 16 points ahead of Nashville. Over in the Pacific Division, a lot of questions are, can San Jose hang on to this momentum and repeat as Western Conference champions? Now, they made that incredible Western Conference run to clinch the conference and get to Stanley Cup, obviously losing to the Penguins last year. But you have teams like Anaheim and Edmonton. Edmonton is a couple years removed from the playoffs, but Anaheim is a playoff team. They will make the playoffs this year. Now, regardless if they win the 5th straight division is out of the question. I mean, I think Ducks fans are probably saying just get to the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup. They don't want to, may not care about the division. Granted, the division title would be a nice, I would say, entry point to the playoffs because you get that home ice advantage, at least for the first round, or the first 2 rounds at least. But again, as a Ducks fans, I just want to get to the playoffs and get to the Stanley Cup final. That is my goal. Okay, moving over to the Eastern Conference. Obviously, Washington is pretty much running away with the best record in the East right now with 80 points. So if the playoffs end today, again, in the Metropolitan Division, Capitals, Flyers, Blue Jackets, Penguins. Penguins, you're defending Stanley Cup champions. Flyers would be your first wild card. In the Atlantic Division, Canadiens, Rangers, Senators, Maple Leafs. Rangers is the wild card. How about the Maple Leafs? They're making a good run this year. It's a very young team. They are making a good run. I mean, currently standings, they're currently sitting tied with Ottawa for second. Yeah, Ottawa was 60 points second in the Atlantic Division. So they are sitting really good right now. I mean, they're a very young team, and I can see them potentially getting into that playoff picture, and not saying they're going to make a deep run, but definitely making some noise. And this could be another playoff team that will be starting to build for years to come. Now, remember, Canada hasn't really had great success with Canadian teams in the playoffs. I think it was 2 years ago. I remember 2 years or 1 year ago where no Canadian teams did make the playoffs, and you had all the U.S. teams from NHL making the playoffs. So a couple of new coaches that were fired over this past week. Claude Julien was fired from the Bruins, and the Bruins are sitting at 58 points, currently 2 points out of the Atlantic third spot, and they are sitting 1 point behind Philadelphia for the second and final wildcard spot. And the Blues fired Ken Hitchcock, and the Blues are currently holding go back to the West. That's first wild card spot. They're pretty much tied with Calgary. They both sit a point ahead of LA for that wild card, for the two wild card spots. But again, my opinion, NHL is all about how you finish down the stretch that could potentially get you into the Stanley Cup final and make that run. If you clinch early, you have a chance to obviously rest your players, rest your lines, maybe switch up your lines, get a couple of minor leaguers called up to give them some ice time. But if you start winning at the right time, you will be a very dangerous team going into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Before I get into the NFL news, we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball. Now, I'm not talking any baseball this episode. I will dedicate one episode purely for baseball. I will talk World Baseball Classic. I will talk Major League Baseball, spring training. I will give you my picks for this year. So that'll be another episode later to come. But obviously, Sporting Team USA is we're getting ready for the World Baseball Classic starting up here in March. Again, that'll be coming next episode, where you can listen to it, tune in, and I'll talk all baseball. NFL. So we're a couple days removed from the Super Bowl. Patriots, congratulations, title number 5. My wife is extremely happy. Huge Patriots fans. I was pulling for the Patriots to win that Super Bowl, obviously because I think everyone wants to see Roger Goodell awkwardly hand the trophy to Tom Brady, which when he gave his congratulatory speech to the New England Patriots, you could barely hear him over the massive booing that he was getting, deservedly so, in my opinion. But again, Bears fan, Patriots, we'll go from there. QB moves. Cutler. Is Jay Cutler done in Chicago? Probably. I think he is done in Chicago. I think he will be done. He is gone. I think Chicago will either draft a quarterback or potentially may try to talk to New England and work out a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Bring the backup QB to Chicago and start fresh. Start with the new young quarterback and get him going with John Fox and potentially start building that team back into a Super Bowl contender, or at least a playoff team, a consistent playoff team. Now, the Bears have not made the playoffs since 2010, and when they were still under Lovie Smith, but under Lovie Smith, they made the playoffs 3 times, won the division 3 times, and won 1 conference championship, but went to 2 conference championship games as well. Kaepernick. I think Kaepernick's done in San Francisco. I think he'll be gone. This year, I mean, with all the attention he brought with him, kneeling during the national anthem, standing up for what he believed in. I'm not going to get too into what he was going in there, but I just think Kaepernick's gone in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. I don't think Shanahan will probably keep him around. I think they will trade him or at least release him once that time comes. Now, going back to the Patriots and Garoppolo, how much are the Patriots willing to give up for Garoppolo? Obviously, he probably will be worth maybe a draft pick, potentially a first-round draft pick, or maybe a first round and a second round combined. So the Patriots are going to be asking for a good return value for Garoppolo, because he did, when he was starting for Tom Brady during his 4-game suspension, he threw 6 touchdowns and no interceptions. So he was effective during his 3 games that he started before he got injured, and he did help the Patriots in the first going of the season get to back to the Super Bowl. Sorry for starting a little there. And then you go back to the Chargers, who announced they're moving from San Diego to LA. This is not a move that they should be doing. They should be back in San Diego. They are the San Diego Chargers. I've only known them as San Diego Chargers. The LA Chargers, 1960s AFL team, 1 year, then they booked it for San Diego. Now, it's not like the LA Rams, where when I was growing up, I did know the LA Rams before they moved to St. Louis. But the Chargers, when you think of Chargers, you don't think Los Angeles. You think San Diego. And San Diego is where, in my opinion, they should be. They should not be in LA right now. But they're going to start in LA next season. They're going to be playing their games at the StubHub Center. About 33,000 capacity. There's going to be the smallest capacity stadium for an NFL team this season, or I believe in league history. But let's see how they do. I mean, this could potentially be a good move for them. But I think it's going to be a horrible move for them. I think they're going to do awful in Los Angeles. I don't think San Diego fans are going to travel up to see them. They're going to lose all the fan base in San Diego. And now you put 2 bad teams in Los Angeles. The Rams were awful. They're still going to be awful. And then you have the Chargers, who weren't good last year. Now you're going to put two bad teams in LA. I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to be good. So, well, that's going to be it for my first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can hit me up at Twitter at Kunos19. I'll put a little thing at the bottom of the screen at Kunos19, hashtag it Kunos Sports Talk 19. Again, next episode will be baseball. It's going to be all baseball, talking Major League Baseball, spring training, and the World Baseball Classic. So, till then, have a good one.